Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the internet's most hated Mafia-themed Geek podcast, Long Coat Mafia Podcast. It is I, once again, the Reverend Godfather, the show's main host and frontman. And today we are in studio. That's right, we're at the Dairy Grind in Martinsburg, West Virginia, recording an episode. And we're kind of doing things a little bit different. I know to some of you who are in the background that don't really gripe or anything like that, or react to our shows, we're kind of flipping the script and doing something more sports-esque, because to some people sports are their geek, and therefore why not? And because sports is a form of geek, we have Brett Rose, who is a race car driver, and not only a race car driver in the Hagerstown area, he is also a promoter for one of the racetracks in the Hagerstown area?
Hagerstown Speedway.
Hagerstown Speedway. And therefore, we're going to be talking to him about being a race car driver, being, a promoter for the Hagerstown Speedway. Let him just tell us what he's able to tell us within legal guidelines and everything else. That way, it gives him a little bit of a escape route, just in case he's not allowed to tell us all that much, or if there's contracts in the works, he's not allowed to tell us, and so forth and so on. So, yes, it's different. It's something new for all of you, and besides, it's not me just talking this week the way it's been for the last few weeks. And yes, I'll be trying to contact our what's moving? That's right, the mics are uber sensitive still. I'm trying to also figure out our new soundboard, which we are using, and that we'll get into that when we have our co-host here. But still, let's get into that interview right now with Brett. So, hi, Brett. Welcome to the show. Let's get right into the interview a little bit. I'm not going to quote Philip DeFranco and say let's jump right into it. But the thing is, I know, folks, too late. But what type of car do you drive? I know there's different types of cars that are out there. There's the standard NASCAR type cars. There's the Indy, kind of the lowriders cars. There's I'm not sure what else. There's that funky looking. To me, it's a funky looking car with that it looks like a ramp on the top of it. I know
that would be a sprint car, and that's what I have now. Sprint cars are they're one of the most popular forms of auto racing on dirt tracks. Not just here in the United States. Sprint car racing is real big in Australia and New Zealand too, but we're going to concentrate here as far as what I'm doing. Actually, personally, sprint car racing is a complete new total venture to me. It's something that my brother and I have wanted to do for a very long time, and we have finally gotten the means, if you want to call it, to be able to do this. And we've really seriously been talking about doing this for probably 2 years, and the opportunity presented itself. We found us a good car. We don't have any brand new high dollar expensive things, but we got us a new car to us. We got an engine, we got support equipment, we're getting spare parts, we're still ordering stuff, and it's a total new venture to us and me as far as driving the sprint car. We have a background, through our father, who is a race car driver himself. Now, Dad drag raced, but he quit drag racing and then went into the world of dirt track racing. So that's how we got exposed to sprint cars and late model stock cars and the dirt tracks around this region, and which living in Martinsburg, West Virginia, we're so close. Now, there's a lot of people that don't even realize how many racetracks there are within about a 2-hour radius of Martinsburg. It's good many.
Well, I think there's one near Charlestown.
That would be Summit Point.
the one that you work for, which is in Hagerstown. There's one in Baltimore?
No, that was the temporary street course that they used for Indy cars a while back. Yeah,
I know they did that for, I think, I want to say about 5 years.
Yeah,
no, about like 2012.
Yeah, it's been several years now.
Because I went to a show up in Baltimore back about then, I want to say 2012, 2013. I might be wrong, folks. If you live in the Baltimore area and you're listening to this, feel free to leave a comment down below in the pinned post, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, same thing. Leave a comment down below and let us know what year. And I just remember my buddy commenting, he's like, they must have had a street course in here because we've seen all the tires
right, and that's what
built
they
up.
had.
And he tried to take a tire, but they were all attached to each other. But to kind of digress, where else is there a track?
You have Winchester Speedway.
Yeah,
I
didn't know
track.
about Winchester.
Drag racing, you have Mason-Dixon Dragway over there past Hagerstown off of Route 40. But, as far as the dirt tracks in this area, the main ones that are closest to here is Hagerstown and Winchester. Then you go towards south central Pennsylvania area. Williams Grove Speedway, Lincoln Speedway, Port Royal Speedway, Bedford Speedway, Susquehanna Speedway, which is now known as BAPS Motor Speedway because of a sponsor issue or a sponsor change to give them the naming title rights to the name of the track. I'm just not used to calling it BAPS yet, and it's been 3 years. Let's see.
I think that might be like I don't want to say an old time. It's the regulars might.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. It's the title could change hands. I've been living in Martinsburg area for at least 10 years. Berkeley County area for at least 20 since '98, and I'm the same way. That's not the it could be a Dairy Queen. It's like, oh, where that old Burger King used to be,
right?
And everybody else knows what it is,
right?
Or that's the thing is no one will refer to it as the new name, even though it's a new name, new owner, or anything like that. Oh, it's old John Smith building or something like that.
Yeah,
it's don't worry about it. It'll be probably about 5 years before everything clicks in.
Yeah.
And what being new, obviously being new and just getting new to the sport, if you want to call it a sport, what have you learned from all this?
Well, what have I learned with our car?
If you want to break it down to two different questions, what have you learned overall, and what have you learned as a driver of a kind of a race car?
The thing I can say that I've learned so far in just getting started at this is the difference in this type of car, which, like I say, is a sprint car, versus a regular street car or a stock type car or even a dirt late model type race car. It's two entirely different animals, yet you're doing the same thing. It's the same purpose. You're racing on dirt. It's like I had a guy tell me, he said, remember, this car's got 4 tires, it's got 4 shocks. It's simple. And he's like, keep it simple. Don't try to reinvent the wheel or rotate the earth trying to make changes that you think will work and stuff like that, when the cars are pretty basic, yet the slightest minute adjustment you make to the car will make the difference in, we're talking tenths of seconds, per lap and that kind of stuff. So that working on the car is critical, to your setup and stuff like that. The biggest thing I've learned it's just the vast difference between the two cars. But you're still trying to do the same thing.
Now, from not just a driver's standpoint, but as a promoter standpoint as well, what can you tell our listeners that all they think is when they hear racing or a race car driver, it's all just a left turn or a right turn. The whole aspect of, they made all it is just a bunch of people going fast doing a left turn or a right turn X amount of times.
Right.
And
if you've never been, and like someone like me who was raised up with the sport, to me it's second nature. It's just the way it is. But if somebody that's new and has never been, like you say, it's like, all they do is just go around in circles and turn left and stuff like that. Well, just imagine racing or driving on a dirt road as fast as you can at over 100 miles an hour, and you got to pitch the car in to turn it, and you're thinking it's just a left turn. Well, you get the car sideways, so you're cranking the steering wheel to the right to get that car to go left. So it's excitement, it's noise, it's the visual aspect of what the spectacle of speed, if you want to call it that. It's I know we can sit here and look at the window and see these cars go by, and it's certainly nothing like that at all. It's an exciting sport.
Now, to kind of move a little bit differently, what does it take to promote a racetrack?
It takes you got to have a good group of people. You got to have a good team of people that are like-minded. You're in, we have the actual track owner, and we have the track general manager, and we have a main promoter, and then you have me, that's the public relations media guy. We're all promoters that work at the racetrack. It takes money. You have to have money to spend on advertising. You have to have money to pay your help, and you just need to present your place in a positive manner. You really do. You need to make it, especially if nobody's ever been, you got to try to make it appealing. What can we do to get people to show up to the track? Especially in this day and age where you have so many forms of varieties of entertainment and stuff. It's a tough market to crack when you can go to the movies or when you can go see professional baseball or basketball or football or even college sports. And it's like, we run on Saturday nights. And you think, Saturday night, just about everybody's off of work. And now you're competing against that entertainment dollar. How do we get these people to the track? And we really want you to come and get hooked, so you can come week after week after week, years after years.
I'm sure there's also the issue of, even though they might be a fan of racing, they might not know that the track is there or there's a track
exactly
in the area,
right?
Either walking distance. Well, if it's walking distance, I'm sure they could hear the track.
Oh, they'll hear it for
sure. But as Stephen Wright once said, everywhere is walking distance if you have the time. But
that's
still,
right.
Whether or not they know it or not, I'm not talking about walking, but within a reasonable driving distance to the track. I know one track that I was, if you want to say near, it was in within the county. Mm-hmm. They had, this is the days before social media, before anything else. They had, I guess, I won't say they had, I guess, but they had a circus there. Just, I guess, to bring awareness. It was the size for the circus,
right?
But I guess it also helps the track say, "Hey, we're a track. We're here."
Right.
We also just stuff like that.
Right. What we try to do is we try to market within about a 90-mile radius of the speedway. So that's roughly an hour and a half. But then again, we have so much. The speedway has so much competition on Saturday nights. Some of those tracks that I mentioned earlier, they also race on Saturday nights. But the thing is you get into, well, this track runs this, even though it's a dirt track and they're all similar, this one track may run a different format of cars that don't race here or don't race there. So, and you get your family, friends, and those type of fans. They have their own little niche following of what track they like to go to because this certain track runs this type of car or, like that. So, and then you have the ones that run almost the exact same identical program head to head against each other. So there's a constant battle with the fans on trying to, let's get you down to here or let's get you to my track. But in recent years, I think some track promoters have seen where that's hurt them. So some of the tracks are trying to work with each other a little bit better. If it does with alternating a particular division from one week to the next, because they know that this division has a certain fan following. So let's try to mix it up a little bit. And so, it's like, you can have this type of crowd this week and I'll have it next week. So, it's a struggle, but it seems to be getting a little bit better.
Could it, I'm sure that there's been a couple of big name drivers from the NASCAR industry come to smaller venues like the one in Hagerstown, just to either try out a new car or they're tired of the NASCAR division. They want to do something different. So
absolutely.
So that could be also a draw as well to a particular track.
We had Ken Schrader, who was a former NASCAR. I still call it Winston Cup. Talk about the old names, the different sponsors that have changed over the years. Schrader actually won at Hagerstown in a modified car last year, but it wasn't. We didn't have really a chance to promote it. It was like didn't find out till Thursday.
And he's coming on Friday or something.
Schrader's going to be at Hagerstown this weekend. It's like so. We really didn't we got it on the track's social media as soon as we could, but we didn't have weeks to
build
hype,
it up,
right?
And
didn't
to
have
make
weeks
sure
to hype to build this up.
I'm sure, me being a indie, very small show ourselves, and Hagerstown being a larger venue, obviously, I'm not holding it against you. I'm not holding it anything like that in regards to, you guys have more funds to kind of throw at advertising and everything like that. With social media, it's always, working against you nonetheless. I hear that in groups that I'm a part of. It's always, every time we take 4 steps forward, Facebook or YouTube or what have you decides to, we're going to change the algorithm and we're just going to just bury you.
Right.
And I'm sure that, when you said, hey, we have this national driver, well-known driver, he's going to be here, and it's the day before, and all of a sudden people are not going to see it until a month later, and you can't help that.
Right.
I can't help that. It's the algorithms and everything else working against you. And even if you throw, I saw something on Facebook that pretty much was news maybe 3 weeks ago, and it was a quote-unquote sponsored ad on Facebook that I'm seeing like a month later.
Yes.
Or I see a post from you 4 times by scrolling up in 2 seconds, yet I'm not going to see my buddy's post until next week for something that happens on Saturday.
Correct.
So it's tough.
Social media, especially in local racing, okay, not so much the national big time stuff, but here locally, it has really hurt more than it has helped. It really has. You just not only you get the fans that
I want to say it's worsened over the past couple of years.
Yes, it really has.
I would say like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it would have been a help, or 5 years ago, it would have been a help.
It was.
Now
you get the people that complain and bitch about the slightest little thing. It's like, first of all, again, we race on a dirt track. So there is going to be nights where the track does get a little bit dusty. Dustier than normal, okay? The track's prepared a certain way with water. It depends on how much water you put on the track to keep it moist. But it's still going to get some dust. when it's July, August, it's going to be dustier than what it was in April or May.
And you could wet the track,
right?
Or moisten the track, and in 20 minutes,
right.
It's dry.
Yes, right. And the thing is you get the casual fan that doesn't know, and I'm not slamming them or anything like that. But, if they would go like one night and, you're just coated in dust, you're not going to be happy, you're going to be mad. But the first thing they do is they go right to Facebook or Twitter
and complain. The folks that never been to a track in their life, they're watching it on TV on a daily basis. They don't know how loud it could be. They don't know how dusty it could be.
Right.
Or smelly.
Right. Yes. And they just and then it snowballs. But we're not talking about just this one week. This is what's been going on the last couple of years. And then the other thing that's got its good and its bad is Facebook Live, especially and when that came out, it was cool when you first thought of it. It's like we get to show what's going on here live, and then you can't stop everybody from bringing their phone into the racetrack, and now in a way
you want people to take photos, you want people to take videos, because again it helps, especially tagging your establishment, the Hagerstown Speedway, or if they meet you in person as a driver, you want them to tag the car, your page, and the video is also
right.
Everything's on the phone right now, so it's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah. Because after a while, you notice that there's less fans showing up in the grandstands because they know somebody's sitting at the track filming. So, I don't have to go to the Speedway tonight. So-and-so I know's there. They're going to post it, within the next few minutes or go live. And so that's not just us. That's pretty much every dirt track in the country has had to deal with that. You're not going to be able to stop it. The only thing is I hope that when it comes to live entertainment of any kind, okay, I'm just for an example, okay, you could watch a Kiss concert on TV or go see a Kiss concert in person. There's a tremendous difference, okay, and it's like that with any type of entertainment. You watch professional football or basketball or baseball or hockey on TV. When you go see it live, you're like, wow, this is great. That's the same thing with auto racing and dirt track racing. TV video does no justice to it. It really isn't. I mean, it's okay to watch on TV. Obviously, I've probably watched just about as many races on television as I have in person, but it does not. There's no comparison.
Yeah, I'll say this as I want to say someone who is not really a fan of NASCAR or racing in general, but it's fun to have someone like yourself on the show. Again, thank you for being on.
No problem.
To talk about it and discuss things. But one of the things I noticed when I used to casually go by a NASCAR race on TV is that the aspect of, especially nowadays, you could pause, you could actually see the car, see the sponsors, see what the car looks like. But when you go to an event, when I was a kid, my father took me, we were living in Florida, he took me we all packed the car, went to Daytona for one of the time trials, and it was just pretty much seeing the cars go by as fast as possible. And I'm like, well, I think that was the Tide car, or at the time it was, I was a bigger wrestling fan than I am now. Like, I think that's the NWO car, but it's just going by so fast. You want to take a good look at it,
right?
But it's kind of hard to do that. But on TV now, especially again nowadays, you could or YouTube, you could pause it, you could look at the sponsors, you could actually see the car in action, hopefully take a screenshot, put it on your phone or your desktop. So again, there is a benefit, but it's also, I understand what you're saying as well, is that there is a type of atmosphere being at the track.
Right.
I'll say it like this. I've been to a couple of O's games in Baltimore. Great seats, first baseline. The players look like players.
Yes.
Instead of little ants.
Yeah.
But and I'll say this, folks. At the time I went, this was more than 10 years ago, though. The tickets were like $15 at the time for baseline tickets underneath the scoreboard. Well worth it.
Right.
Great day out, and it was, granted you could watch a game on TV, but the atmosphere of being in the stands, seeing the other fans enjoy the game, and being a part of the fans live is part of the experience.
Right.
And it's a different night and day. Granted, you could analyze the pitch and yourself sitting on your couch or your easy chair, but and like my co-host likes hockey. He's a big hockey fan, and he's like, it's better. Granted, the tickets are expensive as all hell. Yeah. And he said, but you get to see the whole game. Granted, it's tough to keep an eye on the puck, but you get to see the whole action. Meaning, where there is the puck almost going in the goal on one side, there's a fight on the other side that you're not watching.
Right.
And that's the whole aspect of watching it live.
Right.
So, to go what you're saying, is like you could, whereas somebody recording it or Facebook living it or YouTube living it or streaming it on Twitch or what have you, they're concentrated on their car or the front cars. Right. They're not filming the action, which could be happening, the wreck or some, power play, if you want to call it a power play, power move that's going for the fourth position or the fifth position to move up the track. You're missing out on that.
Right. And, even then, you get, I'm not trying to sound like a smart ass by saying this, but I have, at the end of a night at the Speedway, when all the racing's over, I have all of my notes, and I'm getting ready to write the press release that I send out to all the other media outlets and that kind of stuff like that. And, with social media, you have people that are constantly asking you, who won tonight? Who won tonight? It's like, I so much want to say, well, if you'd have bought a ticket and showed up here at the track, you'd have found out who won, But I don't. I usually just let them know the results will be posted soon. Yeah. You get so many that they want that instant result, instant news. It's like, like they need to know it now. And it's like, well, if you'd have came here and watched, you'd have found out. Now, I understand not everybody can come. Believe me, because that's the other argument as well. Somebody might be sick or somebody might be elderly or injured or something like that. I understand that. And I'm not speaking about folks like that. But, it's like if you can be there, then why weren't you there?
To go with that, to be kind of devil's advocate, that I know people that where they work at, they only work Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays.
Right.
And it's granted, it's 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. shift, and as soon as they get home, they have just enough time to unwind and go to sleep for the next shift.
And I don't fault them either. Like you say,
and they're fans.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
but it's like, give us a little time here. We'll have the results posted, and you'll be able to see it. Very shortly. The official rundown, because even then at the track, once all the racing's done, even if you watch, NASCAR or Indianapolis or anything like that. You watch the winner go to victory lane and have the celebration and stuff like that. However, when that checkered flag falls and you got the rundown, that's still technically an unofficial finishing order. You still have to do post-race inspections and that kind of stuff to make sure the cars were technically legal. And, it does happen occasionally where I have actually had a press release almost completely written, and the tech man radio up to the tower and say, winner was DQ'd because he was, had some kind of illegal part on the engine or illegal part on the car, And we've been sitting there waiting 10, 15 minutes while they do this inspection. And I get results written up, and we're ready to roll out of there. And it's like, hold on. So that's why we say wait until we have the results official.
Thing with again, what some folks don't understand about racing is that each car has to be a certain spec, meaning that the tires have to be, let's say, 35 pounds per inch on each tire. They can't be over, they can't be under, not even by an eighth of a pound. The air intake has to be a certain type of measure, fraction. Even the spark plugs, I don't know. Again, don't know.
It depends.
It all,
It can be a multitude of items.
It depends on, I guess, the track and the league.
Sanctioning body.
Sanctioning body is different. I guess there's, granted, if you want to say it like this, NASCAR is the triple, like the major leagues, and you have the minor leagues ranked underneath that, right. And I guess each minor league, from the majors to the minors, have different specs for the cars.
Right.
Down to the littlest, tiniest little screw.
Yes.
That could possibly.
Yes. There's, if it's in the rules, and it all depends on how the rule books are interpreted. There's some rules that have a lot of gray area. And
it depends on the judge, I guess, the tech guy.
Every track tech guy actually has a it's like they have a disclaimer that says, if it's not in the rule book, that does not mean it's legal or illegal, and we reserve the right to approve or disapprove.
Is that one of the things you're learning as a driver? Is the different nuances?
A little bit. Fortunately for me, the type of car that we have, the rules are pretty cut and dry on a national standard, with a sprint car. And especially in central Pennsylvania, those area tracks, with the cars themselves and the chassis and the wings and the wheels and stuff like that, they pretty much follow a national spec, which is from the World of Outlaws, which is the largest sprint car sanctioning body in the world. And they're the largest nationally. So pretty much whatever the World of Outlaw does, the rest of the world follows. The only difference you get into really is with the engines in sprint car racing. You basically have, I should specify, full-size sprint car racing. There's a lot of other, we could talk for days about this. But with what I got, you have a 410, and this is engine cubic inch. You have the 410, which is the top. That's the top division that runs. Secondly, you have the 360, and what I have is the 358, which is very similar to the 360. It's more of a niche towards central Pennsylvania. You're not going to find the 358 engines racing in Texas or Iowa or Illinois or anything like that. 360 is the national. The 358 has actually been around for about 30 years as far as a division goes around here. And then you have the 305, which is also nationally. I can't speak because I've been not with it that long. I can only speak as the fan. I don't understand why the 358, 360 deal hasn't been solved, so to speak. The 360 is, like I say, it's national, where the 358 is more regional. We're only talking 2 cubic inches, and really the only difference in the rules is the cylinder heads and the fuel injection manifold. That's basically it.
So the difference is like a hair.
Yes, as far as like horsepower racing against each other and stuff like that, there's not hardly any difference. The 358 is at a weight disadvantage because it's completely cast iron, and 360 is allowed the aluminum cylinder head. But there's stuff that you can do to the 358 heads that you can't do to the 360 heads. but it almost levels out. So, but as far as the cars are concerned, the chassis, I could run my chassis anywhere in the country.
So basically what you're saying is if you put somebody who really knows the 358s really well, the 360 guys are going, how dare you? Because you guys, the 358 people, know how to tweak it just right to turn heads in the 360 world. If I'm getting it right,
you're close.
And therefore, they're like, no,
right?
How dare you be,
right.
The David to our Goliath?
As a matter of fact, one of the local 360 touring groups in this region allow, if you have the PA legal 358, you can race with this 360 group. So that's pretty cool.
But other times it's like, all right, let's do an exhibition, and the 358 guys are just tweaking away and
right,
just try to show off, just a little, just a little.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's show off.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's probably happened somewhere.
And actually, it has.
Like, oh, your little rinky-dink 350 can't go against my.
They tried to level it off a little bit because. So here we go with more technicalities. The 358 cars ran a different wing, a different top wing than what the 360s did. So the thought was, well, maybe we should make the 358 cars run the same wings as us, which would keep them disadvantaged, because there is a slight, we're talking slight difference in horsepowers, but not very much. And, there was a guy that had a 358 car. He put the 360 type wing on the car, raced against the 360s, and just mopped them up. So
if he knows what the driver or the guys that work on know what they're doing, and you have the 360 folks that are like being cocky, and
right.
all of a sudden the 358 folks are just twirling their mustache like evil folks. And they're just like rubbing their hands together. Oh yeah, come on, let's put some money on this.
Right, right.
Right, but I'm sure it's friendly competition.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's more friendly competition than there is animosity. There really is. And one thing about racing, and I know you hear this in other circles in sports like too, it really is a big family. It really is. We can sit here. I can be sitting across this table from another driver, or we'll say at the track in the pit area before the races start. We associate, we talk, we cut up with each other. Hey, how's your kids doing? Blah blah blah, stuff like that, and everything's loose until you go up to the driver's meeting, and after it's done, and then you strap yourself in the car, and then it's when business starts. Okay, and you put your buddyship off to the side for a little while, because then you're the competitor.
That being said, are there rivalries?
Oh yeah, there's some rivalries,
but it's more friendly than
overall. It's more friendly. But there is some animosity where you get a group, or I shouldn't say a group, but you get a couple of drivers. I've seen it throughout the years.
Go almost lead to fisticuffs.
Well, it has led to
knockdown, drag out,
knockdown, drag out brawls. I've seen a couple of good ones too over the years, but for the most part, it's not like that. You get
again, that kind of brings us to the previous topics, like. Yeah, they're filming it live, but they're missing out the knockout drag out on turn 3.
Right. Yeah, it happens occasionally. Racing's a thing that people are very passionate about. None of us are well, I'm not saying there isn't, but I'm talking about for myself. Most of us are not multi-millionaires. We work full-time for a living. This is more of a hobby thing to us. But yet we still got a lot of money tied up in what we have, and you're going onto the track, you're taking the risk, but you don't want to purposely tear your stuff up. You don't want nobody to purposely tear your stuff up.
Or to God forbid get into a wreck, because it's
exactly
you're going 180 miles an hour in some cases.
Certain places, yeah. Like our cars, the type cars we run, depending on the size of the track, you're looking basically at about anywhere between 110 to 135, 140-ish. That's still pretty fast in a 1,500-pound car with just a little bit of tubing wrapped around you. No fenders, it's open wheel, so you're not really beating and banging on each other to try to pass like you would in a stock car with fenders or anything like that. But it does happen. There's certain guys you might take offense to because you had the line going into the corner and the guy tried to beat you in and drove the car in a little too hard, a little too aggressive, could have been maybe a little more patient, winds up taking you out, spins you or flips you or whatever like that. And I'd be hard pressed to find any driver that's not pissed when that happens.
Yeah. Just to kind of, I don't mean to interrupt you at all. Just at the aspect of the cost, because I heard somewhere many years ago the cost for 4 tires on the NASCAR circuit is like $20,000.
To go through a race, yes. Yeah. With us, it's completely different.
I'm not saying. Yeah. I'm just using that as an example. Yeah. It's like $20,000.
But still a lot of money.
Yeah. It's not some change.
Right.
That's why the NASCARs have the big time sponsors of the Tide, the M&Ms, and so forth and so on. It's to help pay for that.
They could not do it without it. I mean, what you see on television, of course, you sometimes racers can be their own worst enemy in the pursuit of speed and perfection and stuff like that. We'll talk about NASCAR for a second. I remember how astronomical I thought it was when I believe it was when it was announced, in 2000, whenever Dale Earnhardt Jr., for example, got the Budweiser sponsorship, and it was a 5-year $50 million contract. And I remember thinking, good gosh, they're getting $10 million a year to run that race team, Now you probably, that $50 million for 5 years, you probably need $50 million per year now, because it was just discovered throughout the course of time. We know this guy, he's really sharp, he's an engineer, let's get an engineer for this part of the car. So it used to be you had a car owner, you had a crew chief, engine builder, chassis builder, driver, and then you had the guys that help you put gas, change tires, stuff like that. You could run a race team with like 8 people. And then the really good teams had maybe 4 or 5 spare cars in the garage. You just look at it now, how it's morphed into.
The thing is, I could see what you're saying. That $50 million over 5 years goes to pay not just the driver, who would probably get a sizable chunk of that,
right?
But the chief engineer, the guys that change the tires, the equipment to make sure the car's in running order, and so forth and so on.
Yes.
It's not just Dale Earnhardt's getting $50 million. No, that goes towards everybody.
Absolutely. And see, there's some people that have no clue when where does that money go. But like when you say Tide, M&M's, you just start FedEx, you name off all these sponsors and stuff like that, and how much money they have invested in these race teams. It's astronomical.
And plus, depending on the race team and the division or what have you, there's also assistants and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And I say that is because one of my mom's friends, I forgot which son it was, he always liked building, RC cars, and when he got older, he got into working with a Indy race car team. Mm-hmm. And again, no, I don't think he had formal education. He just loved to work on cars. And I think he was one of the assistants. And when the chief retired, they pretty much went to him and said, "Hey, you want to work on our car? He's gone. You could get to be the chief," even though he was an assistant. I think at the time it was like the Pokemon IndyCar. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the team that he was part of. Right. And it was just cool to know, he was just a pit boy, if you want to call it that.
Right.
And it's just, he got a kick out of, working on being an assistant and working on the car and being one of the assistant engineers on the car. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot, folks, there's a lot of details that go into the car, a lot of ask your local car geek, car nut out there, especially if they're a Jeep owner. I've known at least one or two Jeep owners myself, and they got to work on every square inch of that car no matter what. Got to lift it, got to change it, got to add this, got to add that. Oh, the horn's too loud. Got to.
But to just give you an example of what I'm looking at, and like I say, I work a regular full-time job. I work for Berkeley County Schools on the school bus as a bus aide. So I'm certainly not getting rich. My brother, Aaron, he's my youngest brother. He's my partner in with this. Like I say, this is something he and I both have wanted to do. And he's really been the push to do it. He knows that I've always wanted to drive one. And this is the other crazy thing. I'm 45 years old and have never driven a sprint car. But it's, like I say, it's something I've always wanted to do. We've had the financial means between the two of us to do this. The type of racing that we're doing, what we're looking at, right now we have about $20,000 invested into our, like I say, we have nothing brand new. We have very good used racing components and stuff like that. But right now we're sitting, we just talked about this the other day too, about how much do we have tied up, my half, your half, whatever like that. Between the car and all of our spare parts, the engine, our trailer that we're going to use to tow the car with and stuff like that. Right now we have about 20 grand tied up in everything. Maybe 21 since we're still ordering parts. And the track that we're going to race at is called Trailway Speedway, which is in Hanover. They run the 358 sprint car as a headline in division. And I looked at the schedule, and I believe there's 17 races. We're not going to make all 17. You're always going to have a rain out. That's right. Bound and determined to happen. It's going to be a rain out. But realistically, if we don't break anything major, don't tear up anything, we need to pay our way to get into the track. We're going to use between 20 25 gallons of methanol each week. We probably won't need to buy new tires every week, simply because the track there is kept in pretty good shape, and it's actually easy on the tires, if you want to say that. I think we're going to try to see if we can't run this car on a budget of maybe about $6,000 this year.
That what you said brings up a question. You said there's a fee to enter these races. Is there also a time trial as well? So,
yeah, you have to qualify.
Not only pay the fee but qualify as well.
Right.
So if you don't qualify, do you get the money back? No. Oh, that's tough.
That's the tough part. Yeah.
The other question is, for those who don't know, NASCAR has a point system. Is there a point system?
There is.
There is? Mm-hmm. So in essence, what's the point system like? Because I know in my head it's like, okay, you could probably lose but still win.
Yeah, it's very similar. The point system is, you get so many points per position per week like that. It is actually is possible, and I do remember, and I have seen it locally where a particular driver did not win a feature event all season long, but wound up being the track champion based upon consistency.
And it's, if I'm remembering, because my dad used to like NASCAR. He was big in NASCAR for a little while. You get points if you're in like the top 3 or 4 positions for a certain number of laps. If you're out of the pit in a certain time, weird stuff like that.
We won't have anything weird like that the full way.
But it's like again, this was NASCAR. It's stuff like that. You get 5 points.
5 points for leading a lap, 5 points who led the most laps. And, of course, now they got that new stage stuff that they've been doing the last couple of years, which, my NASCAR interest has actually waned a little bit over the last couple of years. I guess I'm not old, but I'm old enough to be kind of like a purist, so to speak.
Yeah.
And there's certain things I just don't like what they're doing with the point system, and just.
I think in a way, because I tell folks I'm a sports fan, but I'm not really a sports fan.
Right.
For those who don't know, a sports fan is someone who's like yourself, really into it. They know the drivers. They know the stats. They so forth and so on. A sports fan is someone like, I'll occasionally watch. Every couple. They follow, but they don't really follow.
Right.
And like I said, one thing I noticed is that over the years, I saw, if you go from like 2000 to now, you saw that bell where everybody was watching, NASCAR, and now it's kind of just getting quiet.
Right. And I don't know what it's not just NASCAR. There's been, a couple other local racing, or not even just racing, where you've seen a decline in viewership or a decline in attendance and stuff like that. To speak on the NASCAR part with me personally, is constant rule changes with the cars, and and they what they've tried to do to think they're making the racing product on the track better has made it worse. But they're committed to, we're going to ride this out and see how it is, and they took away horsepower and added downforce, and it basically just made them look like slot cars going around the track. It's just like then there's no real racing. It's you have guys racing on the track, but it winds up being like a 500-mile parade. It's to make the cars they're tough to pass with, and it's just it's not the same.
I remember again the days, the early 2000s, when it was kind of I won't say in its heyday, but going through that upper bell curve, you heard like Nissan being better than Chevy, and I guess those are the top 2 brand makers of the cars, Chevy and Nissan, or whoever they were at the time. Right. I think mostly it was at the time Chevy, who had better make of stock car. And now again, those little nuances, and
you had brand identification and you have brand loyalty, and like you say, between Chevy, Ford, Dodge, Toyota, Honda, Nissan, whatever, you got people that are loyal to those brands, that like certain brands of cars over than others. Well, I remember in NASCAR when you could sit in the stands, or even on television, you could visually tell the difference between a Chevy Monte Carlo versus a Ford Thunderbird versus a Pontiac Grand Prix, Olds Cutlass, Buick Regal, whatever. Now if you look at these cars without those headlight, if they were like all black primer and had no headlight decals on it, good luck telling me the difference between that Chevy, Ford, and Toyota, because it's like you can't tell.
Right.
So a lot of that identification is lost, and I think that's really hindered the sport more than anything, especially with fans. Is you just, like I say, it used to be you could automatically just look at the car and say, I knew what that was. Now it's like you stare at television for the longest time, then you figure out, okay, there's that little Toyota decal. So it's like,
and I'm sure you had fans like that. If you had the I don't know who drives the Tide. Let's say the Tide car. Tide would be a Chevy.
Right.
I'm just, folks, if you're a NASCAR fan and I said the wrong car for the wrong sponsorship, I don't care. I'm just using an example. And they switched to a Pontiac. Fans just, no, I'm not a fan of that driver.
That's exactly how it
that
used to
number.
be. Yes.
Because they switched cars.
Yes.
And
Yep.
and it's and for you guys out there and gals out there that are just the ghost sports people, it happens in football, it happens in baseball, it happens in hockey. Best example is when I know he's retired, when Shaq went from the Orlando Magic to he went from LA to Orlando. You had a lot of fans, because they were Shaq fans, switch their favorite team from LA to Orlando, because that's where Shaq is now.
Right.
They just bought a whole new jersey and all that, and I'd have to check with my buddy of mine who is a big basketball fan. He could tell you best who played for who and where they went in their career. But it's just again another example.
Oh, yeah.
It's that sort of thing. It happens all the time.
Yep.
It happens all the time. And to kind of agree with you in regards to kind of the second-hand type of thing, we do it here at the show too. Our GoPro that we use is a pawn shop find. It's our camera is also a pawn shop find.
Right.
It's like if we could find stuff, in essence, on cheap it's maybe $500 at Walmart or Best Buy. We could find it at a pawn shop for $3 and put it on layaway for a few months.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to, it's not the current model, but it still serves us well enough for what we need here at the show.
Right.
And
like the chassis of our car was built in 2017, so our car's less than 3 years old now. But the car that we have has only been raced about 30 times total. So it's pretty close.
So, meaning
close to being a new car.
So in essence,
But it didn't have the new car price.
Right. It's that aspect of all it needs is a little sanding, a little painting.
Yes.
It's still the same shape.
Yes. It's an excellent
shape. It still holds up to probably the safety standards. All it needs is some sanding, some new primer, new paint job. We could just adjust the engine in it, and voila, we got ourselves a car.
That's exactly what we have. Yep.
And it's again the same thing. We have a GoPro Hero 5. Everything's on the cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Our GoPro case is a Magic the Gathering card deck case. Why? It fits, okay? Sue us. But again, it works.
Right. That's absolutely right.
If I could find it at a yard sale, I'll get it at a yard sale.
When my brother and I was looking at stuff, when we were trying to find certain items that we felt that we needed, there's needs versus wants, we would love to have a small enclosed trailer, like just about all the other race teams have, and they're not super expensive. We've actually found a decent used enclosed trailer that would have served our needs quite well for about $6,000 or $7,000, whatever it was. But we both looked at each other and was like, yeah, but if we can find a regular open trailer where the car, we're not worried about it getting wet because we're going to put the car in the garage when we get home anyway, But it's nice to protect your investment, stuff like that. But, my gosh, everybody used a regular old open trailer years ago. I said, let's see if we can pick one up for between $1,000 and $2,000. Because, $6,000 for an enclosed trailer is a good price. I said, but that would free up $4,000 or $5,000 more dollars for us to buy some more parts. And like my dad always said, he said he never seen a trailer win a race.
Right. And what got me is like in regards to, granted it's apples to oranges in regards to what you're doing in our show. With a lot of events that we cover, I use atypical cell phone. It's an all-in-one device. It does everything a major camera can do. It's just that I'm walking around with a press pass. Everybody else is, with a professional-looking camera, taking photos, and I'm snapping away with a cell phone. And when I was at the pawn shop, I got a Sony camera for $70 that Walmart sells for $150. I'm like, you know what? I'm just buying that camera to wear as a kind of a necklace to make myself look a little bit more professional. Yet all I'm doing every now and again is just snapping pictures with my phone.
I did the same. It's funny you mentioned
and
that.
My co-host is like, you just didn't buy a camera just to make yourself look more professional. I went, yes, I did. And he started laughing.
I was, like I say, of course, also writing the column Finish Line for the Journal News here in Martinsburg. I went to the Knoxville Nationals in Knoxville, Iowa, which is the biggest sprint car race in the world. It's 4 days. I was out there. So I got my press credentials. I got to go to the Knoxville Nationals for free, covered the event. As you see right here, I'm holding in my hands my iPhone XR, and I'm not a photographer at all. I mean, I don't even try to remotely claim to be a photographer. But every picture that I took at Knoxville was on this right here. And I'm standing in Victory Lane of the biggest sprint car race in the world. And I am the only person in Victory Lane that does not have the I'm not carrying the Hubble telescope around my neck.
Yeah, those who watch sports know that cameraman.
Yes, the lens that's like 2.5, 3 feet long. I am not carrying that. I'm sure that guy takes fantastic pictures. By the way, I'm sure their pictures are awesome. And I know I got some friends at the speedways that are photographers. They got some good equipment and stuff like that. They take great photographs, But for me, if I can't pull it out of my pocket and hold it in my hand and go click, I don't need to take that picture.
I had to unfriend somebody on. This was the early days of like Facebook, or was it here, folks? I'm going to age myself a little bit. MySpace. The guy that I had on my friends list was always bugging me. It's like, I got to get this, again, many years ago. I got to get a 10 megapixel camera. Now they're like, what, 30, 40 megapixels?
Yeah.
Actual camera is like, I got to get a 10 meg. I'm going to go to the show. I got to get a 20 megapixel camera. I got to get a 10 meg. I'm there with a rinky-dink little, maybe Sony $50 camera that's 5 megapixels. And I'm taking great pictures of people at the show. And I talked to a photographer friend of mine who's a legit professional photographer. Right. One of the studio type of portraits, all that. I was telling him about this. He said, what's he doing? What kind of, is he professional? I went, no, he's just a run-of-the-mill, John Doe, John Smith type person who wants, and he said, if he's just taking regular pictures at an event, he doesn't need a 20 megapixel camera.
Right.
A standard off-the-shelf, Sony 5 megapixel will do just fine.
Yeah.
And again, some of the groups that I roll with on Facebook, that's like, I have this camera, I have that camera. What are you doing on your phone? I'm using this, I'm using Adobe Photos. I'm like, dude, I'm using an LG Stylus 3, and maybe 3 programs I get for free off of Google Play. That's Meme Maker and Pic Photo or whatever it is, or Pic Suite, to kind of combine everything, and I'll use one to crop and everything else. That's all I need. It works great for Instagram, and you guys are using Adobe Photoshop.
and here you go. This is one of the funny things. It's like, like I say, I'm a writer, so I take pictures. I have my own little Facebook page that I do with the racing and my coverage with when I go to other tracks. But there, I said I'm at the biggest sprint car race in the world, and I'm in Victory Lane with my photographer's pass and pit pass and all access and all that. And here I am, snap with an iPhone, and not a single word or you go around here to some other, there's people that look at you kind of sneer or grumble, it's like, That's where I was talking about the Hubble telescope. I go to Williams Grove Speedway close by, and if I get in Victory Lane and take pictures, it's just like, what are you up here with your I've heard them say, this guy's just up here with his phone taking pictures, just because I ain't got the paparazzi carrying stuff doesn't mean that I'm not taking, my pictures aren't meaningless, or, what I'm saying, that,
Like, again,
I'm even looking at that new latest iPhone that's got like the awesome camera, and I'm thinking that'll be perfect.
Said, the events that we cover, it's like I go try to. I'm grateful for the years that I'm just waiting for one of the years for them to say no, because every year it's like, wait a minute, you say yes, and we're just this tiny little rinky-dink little. That is Otakon. They're an anime convention in Baltimore, one of the biggest in the country, and every year for the past few years they told us yes. And again, as I told you, I run this primarily by myself. Mm-hmm. So something like a phone is, in my pocket and something I could easily bring with me, minimal-wise, for that is, iPhones are what, like 10, 15 megapixels as it is?
Yeah.
And the thing is, I got to do everything with a backpack, camera stand and everything else, and I get looks like from some of the people I take photos like, you don't have like the Canon, DSLR cameras that 15 different lengths. I'm like, I'm just one guy. You expect me to have this equipment. I saw one guy with a 50-pound pack. I don't know if I have it on my phone from the year that he was there, but what he did. Let's see if it's on my page. Basically. It was, I think, from this past year. He had. Did I put him up? Don't know if I did. No. He had pretty much his whole system on. Yep, this is him. That was his whole.
Oh my God!
He had like studio level things on his back and everything else. He said that pack weighed like 115 pounds.
Not me.
And because he had everything with him, like batteries, lenses, the lights. I'm like, why? He said, I'm here as press. I'm doing photography. This is my setup. I'm like, I'm just one phone, maybe one camera stand, and maybe my laptop with me so I could transfer everything as a backup, and you're here like that. This way I have, again, recording app on my phone. That way it's just easily, want to interview, back and forth, and again, transfer to my phone. It's all to my laptop, and it's all easy.
Yep.
And granted, I'm thankful for the new equipment, which is a help. So that being said, we're past about an hour. Do you wish to wrap it up, or do you wish to continue?
It's up to you.
I'm not sure there's much more
to talk about?
I don't know. Honestly, don't know. What more can we talk about? I don't know. It has been fun having you here on the show. I think we've pretty much covered a little bit of everything from promoting, the race, the racing circuit, being a driver, learning everything.
I'll just say that if you're in the Hagerstown, Maryland area on a Saturday night, and especially if it's something you've never done before and you want to check out something different, I am recommending you check out Hagerstown Speedway. It's 6 miles west of Hagerstown on U.S. Route 40 going towards Hewitt's Crossroads, Clear Spring area. It's been there since 1947, but it's a modern racing facility. And
I'll say this here on the air, if you will, send me through like Facebook or something like that, the social media links.
Yes, I will do
including
that.
If the racetrack has a website as well, that too. And
I can do that.
I'll put everything in our show notes, and when it appears on our website, it's all clickable and all that. That way,
I can do that.
That way, it's covering all the bases and so forth and so on. Even if you as a driver have an official Facebook, I don't put personal pages on for our show notes as clickable. That way it saves privacy on your end. But if you have an official driver page, Facebook likable page or group, send that as well. That way I could put that as part of our show notes.
That'll work.
When people go to our website, they are able to click that as well and visit those pages if they so choose to do so.
Sure thing.
So
I can do that.
And folks at home, if you wish to join in the conversation, and if you have any questions for me to pass along to Brett, you're more than welcome to do so via our email, which is longcoatmafia@gmail.com, or put them in the comment section for the pinned post that is on our Facebook page, whatever the episode might be posted up at the time. And our Facebook page is facebook.com/The Long Coat Mafia Podcast. Or you can DM us on Twitter or Instagram. Both handles are Long Coat Mafia. We do recommend liking or following our pages on social media. That way, as we grow, Facebook, hopefully, and other social media outlets kind of say, hey, what's going on with these folks, and kind of push us a little bit more, because that's how things are. And there are some, I'm not saying Hagerstown Speedway does it, but there are other big-time venues and events that look more so at followers, we don't know why, than anything else. So that helps us by doing so. And also clicking that like and follow button allows you to see some of the mini commentaries that we put up on articles on Facebook that we have been neglecting as of late, but we will be getting back to shortly. So I do promise that. If also, we do have a YouTube channel. You have to search for Long Coat Mafia if you haven't done so. I should be more specific, Long Coat Mafia Podcast, because if you just search up Long Coat Mafia, you get a lot of wrong stuff. But if you search up the Long Coat Mafia Podcast, you get our channel. Please click that subscribe button, because if all else fails, hopefully, if YouTube isn't being a royal pain in the ass, they post up our episodes on a weekly basis, and we should be starting up some more videos this year. I know we haven't posted up any, but we will hopefully shortly. And speaking of our episodes, you could always find us, if you're listening to us on your desktop or laptop computer, you could find us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, depending on which OS you're using, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, or our main website at thelongcoatmafia.podbean.com. And I do recommend bookmarking that website, just in case Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iTunes decides to go a little bit funky. You have a backup plan. If you're listening to us on a mobile device, you can listen to us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radios, Spotify, or where podcasts are found, and plus the Podbean app, just in case, again, those services decide to be a little bit finicky and kind of doing funky stuff. Besides, if you look at our website, the only way to get episodes off our website is the Podbean app on mobile. And the great thing about our website, again, which is thelongcoatmafia.podbean.com, is that all our episodes straight back to the beginning are there. You can stream them, download them, listen to them at your leisure. So you're more than welcome to go there. Besides, you get to see all our links to our social media, and as well as some of our regular hosts and our guest hosts that we have been on as regulars in the past. So also, in the upcoming weeks, we will be starting to stream again on either Mixer or Twitch. Our Mixer channel is mixer.com/LCMP, and our Twitch channel is twitch.tv/ I think it's Longcoat Mafia or Longcoat Mafia Pod. Links are in our show description, which again is also found on our website, which is thelongcoatmafia.podbean.com. All the links are clickable. So again, see you all next week. And again, special thanks to Brett for being on the show.
I was glad to be here.
You've been listening to the Long Coat Mafia Podcast, the internet's most hated and mafia-themed geek podcast.